in human history. When 25-year-old Salman Mirza met up with his ex-fiancée at a hotel in India, he realized that he didn't have protection. Salman then proceeded to seal up his pee-pee using a strong glue, causing him to die of organ failure.
What's up YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG Reels, Facebook, anything weird, unusual, unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. I just want to thank all my supporters, man, who's coming back to the channel each and every single day, watching the videos entirely, man. Comment down below. I really appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Say it with me, y'all. Let's seek the truth.
Hi everyone, welcome to a new series called Celebrities You Didn't Know Were Kidnapped. Today we're going to be talking about the not very well-known kidnapping of Jessica Alba. Now, this is not something that Jessica's talked about publicly, but when she was 15 years old, she was kidnapped from set from her first ever show, Flipper. The story goes that Jessica was filming in Miami when she started receiving weird phone calls. She didn't really think much of it because she figured it was just a fan that got her number. The specific details have never been released, but we know that Jessica was taken for 14 hours and found tied up and blindfolded in the trunk of a car. When she was found, she wasn't able to recount a lot of the details to the police, but also she was severely traumatized and it sounds like she was blindfolded for a lot of it. In general, though, this is just kind of a small part of Jessica's dark past. She was raised in a really religious community that completely shamed her for her looks. Like basically being told it was her fault that older men were looking at her because she was just too pretty. This is just the first of a few stories we're gonna tell though, so follow along for more.
Most unusual deaths in human history. Yoroko Onaja was in the middle of having sex with his sixth wife when his other wives caught him and became jealous. They forced him to do it with each of them and he stopped breathing before he could get to the fifth wife. A 32-year-old man from Florida, Edward Archibald, died from choking on arthropod body parts in a cockroach eating contest. When 25-year-old Salman Mirza met up with his ex-fiancée at a hotel in India, he realized that he didn't have protection. Salman then proceeded to seal up his pee-pee using a strong glue, causing him to die of organ failure. This past Halloween, a Brazilian man was fishing with his two friends when all of a sudden they were attacked by bees. The man attempted to escape by jumping into a nearby lake where he was attacked by piranhas and died. 42-year-old Tony Isles was in a McDonald's drive-thru when he dropped his credit card. He opened his door to retrieve it when his car rolled forward, pinning him between the door and the car, crushing him. Most unusual deaths in 2022. Just a few weeks ago, a 32-year-old man named Khalil Kimmy was swimming at a pool party in Israel when all of a sudden a sinkhole opened up under the water, causing him to be dragged inside and sucked to his death. On January 5th, a personal trainer named Tom Mansfield died after ingesting an amount of pre-workout equivalent to 200 cups of coffee. The father of two reported that his heart started beating extremely fast and he was foaming at the mouth before he died just minutes later. The following day, on January 6th, a 16-year-old boy named Teddy Balkin was playing a JV hockey game when he fell to the ground and collided with another player. His neck was then slit by the boy's hockey skate and he died later in emergency surgery.
Imagine you're me scrolling on your For You page in the middle of the night and you see this. Now, this is a doll. Let's get that out of the way first. And this woman married this doll. There you go. Just picture them at their wedding. And she has like an entire family of like zombie dolls. But is this not so like unnerving? And also, is that not like a child zombie doll? I understand this is not what my like page normally is about. Like it's usually like crime and like hauntings and stuff like that. But like this is freaking me out.
A police sergeant called this case the most bizarre he's seen in 30 years. This is the bizarre disappearance of the Trump family. The Trump family was a seemingly normal, hardworking family living in Sylvan, Australia. The parents, Mark and Jacoba, and their 3 adult children, Rihanna, Mitchell, and Ella, all worked on the family's berry farm. Until August 29, 2016, when the entire family up and vanished, leaving their cell phones, credit cards, passports, and no warning. The entire family disappeared. After friends noticed, police went to the Trump home to find it in complete disarray. Their financial records were rifled through as if someone was looking for something, and the home was a mess. It looked like they wanted to be untraceable with a cash-only trip. Mitchell, the Trump's son, brought his cell phone, but miles into the trip, his family made him throw it out of the car window. They said it could be used to track them. The family drove all day and all night until reaching the city of Bathurst, and for some reason, Mitchell separated from the family at 7 a.m. The remaining 4 family members continued to drive east toward the Venezuelan caves. Once they arrived, Rihanna and Ella separated from their parents, stole a car, drove to the city of Goulburn, and then reported their parents missing. Then, strangely, the sisters split up. Ella returns home and was greeted by police, and Mitchell arrived home the next morning, and the two seemed fine. But Rihanna was found in a truck bed by a driver almost an hour away. He was driving and felt a kick in the back of his truck. He pulled over to find Rihanna in the back in a complete catatonic state. This man called police. She didn't know who she was, where she was, and they took her to a psych ward. Now just the parents were missing. The two drove towards Melbourne, then separated. They found Jacoba wandering miles away, agitated. She was also taken to the psych ward. Now it's just Mark, and this is where the story takes a creepy turn. One night around 10 p.m., Mark was spotted dangerously tailgating a young couple. The couple was really scared as he was so close to their car they couldn't even see his headlights. The couple pulled over, and Mark pulled up behind them. He got out of the car, started running towards them, randomly stopping in the middle of the road, and just stared at them. He turned and ran into a nearby park and vanished. Nope. Nope. After 6 days, Mark was found wandering down a road and taken in for evaluations. And to this day, no one knows the reason behind this. Police couldn't find any threats against the family, no drug use, no deaths. The family cannot explain it. What do you think happened?
Creepy.
I think they might have just broke. They did all that weird stuff, and there was like no threat to them or to their family. I think that's the only way I can explain that. That was a weird, very weird story. One of the weirdest stories we heard yet.
Historical photos that will haunt your nightmares, part 5. This photo shows a 15-foot great white shark floating in a tank of formaldehyde found in an abandoned Australian wildlife park. This first responder is helping to aid the Australian wildfires that were started at the beginning of 2020. They caused so much damage and destruction that they actually turned the entire Australian sky red. This shows a female patient undergoing treatment in 19th century Germany. They believe that the crucifixion pose would cure her mental illness. This appears to be an ordinary Chinese statue of Buddha. But when scientists placed it into a CT scanner, they found what appeared to be the mummy of a 1,000-year-old Buddha monk. Okay, I don't know about y'all, but 2020 is not the year that we should be messing with mummies and seeing what's inside of them. Here are some facts that you probably didn't know that one day could save your life.
Okay.
Part 20. If you're ever cooking and the pan catches on fire, do not throw liquid on it. Instead, use the lid to smother the heat and do not remove it for a few minutes. If your pupils don't dilate to the same size, there is a very real chance you have brain damage. A motorcycle helmet is stronger than a skull. Tea bags actually stop bleeding. They contain a chemical called tannic, which naturally clots your blood. If you're in the wilderness and desperately need water, you can take a plastic bag and hold it against the branch of a willow tree, and it will condensate drinkable water into the bag. Never put tools or heavy objects on the back seat or dash of your car. If you get into a crash, you might survive the collision, but these items could be the cause of your death.
Can some cameras pick up on the paranormal? Back in the late 1800s, an inventor named Frank Lumiere claimed that he had invented a camera that could see into a realm that humans could not. And what he saw, people at the time were just not ready for. And before we dive in, if you love spooky stories, you'll love the podcast. To prove it, he had set up a booth at the Chicago World's Fair where he took some of these portraits. The crazy thing about that day was that most of the portraits Frank had taken came out completely normal, but there were a few portraits of young girls that came out severely distorted. Frank was accused of all sorts of things, of being a con man, of being a witch, and then eventually he disappeared in 1908 along with his camera. History largely forgot about Frank and his camera, but recently a historian noticed that all 4 women who were photographed like this that day died before their 25th birthday. It's unclear if the camera had anything to do with it, or if the camera could see something that we just
Born addicted to crack cocaine, little Elisa Izquierdo didn't stand a chance with a mother like hers. Elisa was born in 1989 in Brooklyn, New York, to parents Awilda Lopez and Gustavo Izquierdo. Throughout her pregnancy with Elisa, Awilda was abusing crack cocaine, meaning when Elisa was born, she actually had to be weaned off the drugs as she was addicted. Gustavo ended his relationship with Awilda when he realised what she was doing, and he vowed to get custody of Elisa. She actually had 2 children from a previous relationship that she'd lost custody of due to her drug abuse, and they were being raised by family members. When Elisa was born, Gustavo actually managed to win custody, and his world revolved around his daughter. He started taking parenting classes, and he enrolled Elisa in a preschool in 1990. Unfortunately, his health started to decline and he could no longer afford the tuition fees, but she was a promising student, and the principal of the school decided to introduce her to one of the patrons of the school. This was Prince Michael of Greece, and he actually offered to pay for Elisa's tuition fees right up until 12th grade. During her first year of preschool, it came to Gustavo's attention that Awilda had actually beaten her addiction, secured permanent accommodation, got married and become pregnant with her 4th child. She'd also regained custody of her 2 older children. When Elisa was just 2, Awilda applied for visitation rights, and she won, meaning that Elisa would go and stay with her unsupervised every other weekend. Shortly after these visits started, Gustavo and also teachers at Elisa's school started to notice bruises. She also began bedwetting and started having regular nightmares. She also told her father at one point that her mother had beaten her and locked her in a closet. Gustavo tried to get Awilda's visitation rights revoked, but it was denied, saying that as long as she didn't beat her daughter, the visitation could continue. In 1993, Gustavo decided to come up with a plan to get Elisa away from her mother permanently. He was from Cuba and still had family there, so he decided to buy tickets for him and Elisa and take her where her mother couldn't hurt her anymore. The tickets were booked for May 26, 1994, but shortly before that, Gustavo started to experience breathing difficulties. He was admitted to hospital and diagnosed with lung cancer. He then sadly died on the exact day he planned to take Elisa to Cuba. On hearing about Gustavo's death, Awilda decided to apply for full custody of her daughter. Due to the previous abuse of Elisa, there were multiple objections to the court from Gustavo's family and also Prince Michael of Greece. Despite that, Awilda was awarded full custody of Elisa.
Nobody even checked on her?
Breaking news, a jury just reached a verdict in the Letitia Stauch murder trial. On January 27, 2020, Letitia reported her 11-year-old stepson Gannon missing. Gannon's father had been deployed by the National Guard the day prior. Letitia claimed that Gannon left the house to visit a friend down the street, but she couldn't provide names of those friends. Investigators interviewed Letitia several times because she was the last person to see Gannon alive, and each time her story changed drastically. One time she claimed that she was R-worded and that man had abducted Gannon. Another story was that Gannon had crashed his bike and then that man abducted him. Hundreds of volunteers searched for Gannon in Colorado Springs, and 2 weeks after he vanished, particle board with Gannon's blood was found in a rural area nearby. Over the course of a month, Letitia's behavior became even more strange. She obtained a rental car, disconnected her phone, and left the state of Colorado. Investigators then conducted a more thorough search of Gannon's home, and this is a quote from Letitia's arrest warrant. Physical evidence recovered from the residence and inside Gannon's bedroom supports that a violent event occurred in his bedroom, which caused bloodshed, including blood splatter on the walls and enough blood loss to stain the mattress, soak through the carpet pad, and stain the concrete below his bed. Police learned that on the Monday Gannon went missing, he had stayed home from school. Letitia told the school that Gannon was ill. She also lied to her employer so that she could stay home as well. She told her boss that her stepfather had been fatally struck by a car, so she couldn't go into work that day. Letitia also sent her daughter to pick up carpet cleaner, trash bags, and baking soda, which she used to clean up the crime scene. Letitia searched for jobs in other states and apartments in Florida, both before and after Gannon went missing. These are some of her Google searches during that time, which included, "I'm overdoing all the work for my stepkids and their mom doesn't help," and "find me a rich guy who wants me to take care of his kids," as well as "my son burned the carpet, how do I fix it?" She also searched, "One day some people will wish they treated you differently." Based on all this information and more, police believe that Letitia murdered her stepson Gannon, and hid his remains hoping they would never be recovered. On March 2nd, 2020, Letitia was arrested in South Carolina. She was charged with murder in the first degree of a child under 12, child abuse resulting in death, tampering with a deceased human body, and tampering with physical evidence. And while she was being transported back to Colorado, she ended up getting out of her restraints and assaulting a deputy. She also apparently tried to grab one of their guns. 2 weeks later, on March 17th, a man was doing a routine bridge inspection in Pensacola, Florida. Below the bridge, he found a heavy suitcase. He opened it and noticed a strong smell and then saw, quote, 2 little feet with football socks. DNA testing confirmed it was the body of 11-year-old Gannon Stauch. Gannon had suffered 18 sharp force injuries, 4 blunt force injuries, and 1 bullet wound. Hydrocodone was found in his system. Records show that Letitia rented a van and stayed just 3 miles away from where Gannon's body was found. Letitia has been on trial for the past 5 weeks. She's pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. Her defense claims that she had a psychotic break and this resulted in Gannon's murder, while prosecutors argued that Letitia's brutal attack stemmed from her hatred of Gannon. After 7 hours of deliberation, a jury found her guilty on all charges.
It's just a dark case, man. And the fact that she's searching all of it shows her intention right there. It's all in the search history, man.
13-year-old Jayme Kloss was just getting on the school bus in the morning when the roughest-looking 21-year-old I have ever seen, Jake Patterson, who was just on his way to work, happened to catch a glimpse of her as she was getting on the bus and made a final decision in his mind that, quote, "This is the girl that I'm going to take." He had tried driving up to the Kloss home a couple times, but there was some commotion, neighbors, whatever, and he got spooked and drove home, but he decided to try one more time. With a stolen license plate and every light disabled on his vehicle, I mean, we're talking right down to that little light that comes on when you pop the trunk, he slowly coasts into the driveway, but it sets the dog off. Dog starts barking, which wakes up Jayme, who tells her parents. As Patterson walks up to the house, he's completely dressed in black. He's got a ski mask on, wielding a shotgun. Jayme's dad is coming over to the front door to see what the commotion is, and Patterson can just kind of see his silhouette through the window and fires a fatal shot right through the window at the dad. As he's shooting his way through the front door, Jayme's mom is actually able to quickly call 911 and barricade herself and Jayme inside the bathroom, but Patterson quickly is able to just smash his way in there, and he fires another fatal shot at Jayme's mom. This girl had to witness both of her parents go in just the most brutal way possible. This all went down in about a 4-minute window, and as the police are speeding over to the house, they actually pass Patterson, who is able to get away with Jayme locked in the trunk. Cops just had the crime scene to go on, and everything just goes quiet for a little while. No leads, no sign of Jayme, zip. But Jayme was still alive. For 3 months, Jayme was forced to live under Patterson's twin bed, and he tried to develop this companionship-like relationship with her, like they apparently played cards and watched TV, and he basically just instilled it in her that if she ever tried to make a break for it, it'd be bad. He had the bed lined with tote boxes and weights, but that was it. One day, Jake tells Jayme, "Hey, I'm gonna be gone for a couple hours, you know the drill," and you know, everything had gone according to plan up to this point.
911. Hi. I have a young lady at my house right now, and she says her name is Jayme Kloss. Who's going to come back? Jake Thomas Patterson.
When Jake came home after that couple hours, Jayme was gone. Now at this point, Patterson is just out of his mind, driving around frantically, just trying to track Jayme down, but the cops tracked him down, and the first thing he said was, "I know what this is about."
Hey y'all, today I'm going to talk about a case that feels like a real life horror movie. Today I'm going to talk about the Bleeding House of Atlanta.
Come again?
In Atlanta, Georgia, there was a couple named Minnie and William Winston. The Winstons was an elderly black couple in Atlanta that lived on 1114 Fountain Drive. Their house was cozy and a nice-sized house. Over time, William's health declined. He was placed on a dialysis machine, and Minnie became his caretaker. The couple, however, lived in the house for over 20 years, and they loved their house. But a disturbing event would change their lives forever. One night in September of 1987, Minnie, who was 77 at this time, was taking a bath around 11 o'clock p.m. When Minnie got out the bathtub, she felt something soaking her feet. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, it's water. But honey, when she looked down and realized what was soaking her feet, she freaked out. When Minnie looked down and saw what was soaking her feet, it was blood. Blood began to ooze through the tiles on the floor and began to ooze through the walls. When Minnie discovered this, she woke up her husband William, who was 79 at this time. They both were confused, scared, and was trying to investigate to see what was the source of the blood. The couple did not find the source of the blood, so Minnie decided to call 911. Paramedics arrived first, and they noticed that the couple did not have any cuts or other injuries on them. The lab technician at the scene, she collected the blood that was oozing through the walls and the floors, and come to find out that the blood tested positive for human, type O. I know, y'all, this shit is crazy. And what's so crazy is that the blood didn't belong to neither Minnie or William because they were both type A. So who blood was it? Just like the couple, the investigators could not find the source of the blood either. The disturbing event spread quickly around Atlanta, and a lot of people suspected that the house was some sort of supernatural, paranormal type shit. Here is a theory of what may have caused the blood. Before the Winstons moved in, it was a black guy named Alba who used to live there. One day in 1950, Alba got into a terrible car accident. A white driver actually T-boned his car, but the white driver never got charged, and when Alba was sent to the hospital to get treated for his injuries, they still sent him home with internal bleeding. What makes this so interesting is that the same night that the blood was oozing from the walls and the tiles on the floor was the anniversary of Albert's car accident. Minnie was in doubt for many years that her house was a part of the supernatural. Even after the event, the couple still lived in the house. A few years after the incident, William died. In 2015, Minnie died at the age of 104. I'll be back to do
episodes in kids' cartoons.
Talk about
in an episode of Care Bears, the bears and their cousins find themselves in a place called Drab City, where color has vanished and people who live there don't seem to care about anything. This was caused by a mysterious force that took everyone's color and feelings away. And slowly, it started going after the bears, and they eventually gave in until help arrived. The whole episode was about mental health, and it came off as way too heavy for a kid's show. Next, in The Fairly Odd Parents, Timmy gets upset for not being appreciated for the good deeds he's done and wishes he was never born. He's then transported to an alternate universe where it shows that everyone's lives are better without him. And to add insult to injury, Timmy gets sent to what's basically the pits of hell. And when Timmy gets a hold of Jorgen's wand, he takes time to think if wishing himself to exist is worth making everyone's lives miserable. It's a pretty dark and messed up plot. And lastly, this Thomas and Friends episode starts as per usual, with Thomas giving a helping hand. Then, it's not long after that a character named Stepney ends up getting lost in a scrapyard, getting lost in a fog and almost getting scrapped in the process. This was meant to warn kids to be careful while on their journeys, or you may not live to tell your story.
Ghost stories from...
Hey man, that's freaking crazy, bro. The messaging, man, in these kid shows, man, it's like when you think about it, when you're a kid, you're just so oblivious to it, but there's real life messages in all pieces of media, man. You just gotta be able to see it. Because I sure wasn't picking up on it as a kid.
From around the world. This is hands down my most requested video. Mexico, La Llorona. Once there was a woman named Maria who married a rich man and had 2 children. But eventually her marriage hit a rough patch and her husband started spending less and less time with her and the kids. Until finally Maria caught him cheating. Absolutely enraged at this, she ends up drowning her 2 children. She immediately regrets it and tried to save them, but it was too late. Then she stopped eating and grew thinner and thinner until she resembled a skeleton. Eventually, she finally passed away by the same river that she drowned her children, still crying and mourning over them. So after she died, she went to heaven but was denied entry. She was banished to purgatory on earth until she could find her lost sons. And that's how she became La Llorona, which also translates to the weeping woman. She floats over bodies of water in a long white funeral gown. She also kidnaps children and attacks cheating husbands.
Damn. Okay. I'm probably gonna have to call edit on this one. Yeah. I'm gonna call it edit. What do you guys think?
The darkest conspiracy theories. The Teletubbies theory. The theory says that the show is inspired by historic events.
Really?
that happened in a Bulgarian mental facility. Each Teletubby is inspired by a kid that was experimented on. Lola was based on a child who had facial disfigurement and had to smile all the time. Tik and ended up lying in his own puke. And Poe was based on a child who fell into fire, which is recognizable why his color is red.
Here's some conspiracy theories that
believe
I
that?
think get past the level of theory and are true. Women's clothing is designed with little to no pockets for the sole purpose of selling more purses. High-end art is just a scheme to launder money and avoid taxes. Like this one here, sold for $43 million. This one sold for $46 million. This one was $84 million. Someone actually paid $87 million for this. This has got to contribute to inflation in some way. Things that happen in the entertainment industry, like with movies, TV shows, video games, are done on purpose to gauge interest and get opinions before an official announcement. That little bit of dust that comes off the end of tissues when you pull them out of the box is specifically designed to get you to sneeze, that way you need more tissues. The government orchestrates their own conspiracy theories to get us distracted from actual problems.
Hey man, she was hitting that head on the nail, bro. Especially like I said, how some of those theories, they can be true. I'm about to say, you guys think, especially the last one, when she said how sometimes the government they be trying to put theories out there, trying to distract us from the bigger truth. That's why I tapped in with this, or tuned into this type of content, man, so I can learn, so I can expand my mind. I didn't want to be distracted no more. Where's this guy?
Some trees can actually grow inside of your lungs. In Russia, doctors performed surgery on a man named Artyom Sidorkin, suspecting that he had a cancerous tumor in his lungs. Instead of a tumor, though, they found a 5-centimeter fir tree branch inside of his lung.
What?
Doctors believe that Sidorkin accidentally swallowed a fir tree bud, which later grew into a branch. The probability of dying on your birthday is higher than any other day. There is actually a 14% chance of dying on your birthday than any other day. This is a shocking phenomenon called the birthday effect, which may be due to extra stress, drinking more, or people engaging in risky behaviors on their birthdays. A devil's chair exists in many cemeteries. In various cemeteries around the world, there are stone chairs called devil's chairs. These chairs were often used by mourners to sit and grieve, but legends and superstitions have given them a sinister reputation. Some stories claim that if you sit in one at midnight, the devil himself will appear. You are more likely to be bitten by someone in New York City than you are to be bitten by a shark. There could be someone secretly living in your wall or attic without you even knowing it. It's called phrogging, and people say that it's becoming more and more common. So if you hear strange noises, notice things missing or moved, or your box of Frosted Flakes cereal is all of a sudden empty, there could be a frogger living in your home.
Here's what some of the most...
I didn't even know that was an actual term of froggers. That's actually one of my worst fears ever, man. That's like imagine somebody in your own space and you have no idea. Gotta pay attention, man. And that fir tree going inside that person, I would have said that's impossible, man, but we just saw it. What do you know?
Most famous monsters actually are the chupacabra. The goat-griefing livestock leech believed to be first seen in Puerto Rico was more than likely a dog with a severe case of mange, and that's when mites burrow into the skin and basically cause parasitic alopecia. Bigfoot, different animals, same beast, or whatever it was Kobe said. Anyway, it was probably a mangy bear. Exhibit A, Exhibit B, Exhibit C. What the hell mange does? Coke Bear done graduated to meth?
Ooh.
I don't mean numbers. The Loch Ness Monster. There have been many theories, but what's most likely was probably just an escaped circus elephant with trunks out like Dragon Ball. For centuries, there have been stories of killer cyclops, a one-eyed op to humanity. Whole time, someone probably just found an expired elephant skull in an Olympic long jump to a conclusion. And last, almost every sea monster story you've ever heard was probably just some whale freeing his willy. That's exactly what you think it is, the more you know.
Here's how Area 51 became the center for alien conspiracy theories. In 1989, a man named Bob Lazar claimed that he had worked at a facility near Area 51 known as S4. According According to Laser, the facility was being used to reverse engineer alien technology recovered from crashed UFO. Laser's claims were highly controversial, and many people dismissed him as a hoaxer. However, his story only served to fuel the already existing rumors of alien activity at Area 51. Since then, countless conspiracy theories have emerged about what's really going on at Area 51. Some people believe that the government is hiding evidence of extraterrestrial life, while others think that the base is being used to develop top-secret weapons and technology.
What do you guys think?
That's what Mordecai said. Take that back, Rigby. They started fighting, and it didn't take long for them to bump into a microwave which took them up into space. And while in space, the argument still continued. You're over here turning on me, Mordecai, but I'm your bro. I'm just looking out for you. That's what Mordecai said. I don't care. I've been trying to get with Margaret for years, and yet every time she turns me down. And next thing you know, Mordecai pushes Rigby off, killing Rigby. That's when Mordecai says, wait, no! But the damage was already done, and Rigby's funeral went down the following week. After that day, Mordecai got so depressed, and ended up killing himself later that day by jumping off a cliff. Mordecai killed his best friend, and he disintegrated into the abyss, all because he was a simp.
He couldn't take that L, bro. It drove him insane. What the hell? I can't believe that freaking aired. That was on like Cartoon Network too. I'm gonna have to check. We're gonna have to review that episode, man. See if it's legit.
Who eat humans. Komodo dragon. Piranhas. Crocodiles. Jaguars. African driver ant.
African driver ants eat humans?
Bear. Lion. Catfish.
Catfish eat humans now? What the hell?
Tiger. Cheetah. Hyenas. Shark. Dog.
Dogs too? What the hell?
Polar bear.
This is part 2 of the crime scene
That has
photos
shocked
were
me.
leaked from the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case, revolving around the murder of her mom, Dee Dee. This is another photo that was taken inside the house. You can see that the kitchen is absolutely trashed. This is inside their living room. Again, literally trash everywhere. This next one, please, if you're squeamish, look away. Okay, I cropped the photo, but basically her mom was found in this pink bedsheet. I'm covering a lot of, She was found laying on her stomach with stab wounds all over her body and a huge gash mark on her neck. Again, those photos are literally online where you see everything. I cropped this one again, but this is the crime scene bit. This half, it was just all blood in a wrapped body. I know a lot of you are really curious and you want to see these photos, but they are very dark and gruesome. Even photos of Dee Dee nude from the waist down. It was a very dark and gruesome murder.
Cursed games you should never play. Part 24.
Dark case.
Blue baby, baby blue. Begin at night. Go into a bathroom and turn off all the lights. Then lock the door behind you and face the mirror. As you're looking into the mirror, position your arms as though you're cradling a baby. While doing this, chant the phrase blue baby, baby blue 13 times. As you do this, you'll feel the weight in your arms begin to grow. And at some point, you'll start to feel scratching on your arms. Once you feel the scratching, immediately drop the baby in the toilet, flush it, unlock the door, and leave. If you're alive, you won. But there are 2 possible losing conditions. The lesser of 2 being the scratching in your arms becoming unbearable, or the second one being a woman appearing in the mirror. She will demand her baby back and probably kill you.
I never play those type of
These are
games.
scary cartoon
Never.
truths that would terrify you. Part 12.
Okay, so Talking Angela started as a mobile phone app for a lot of children. Angela is a white cat with blue eyes who has conversations with you and could answer any question you ask. But recently, Talking Angela turned into an app to spy on young children. It is said the app was taken over by a creepy man or a very creepy group. It's said that if you're over 18, nothing happens. But if you're younger than that, the cat will then start asking you very weird questions. Like,
What?
where do you live? What is your name? And what are your parents' names? The creepy man or group are able to take pictures of you through your own phone. Also, if you zoom in on Angela's eye, you can see a man watching you. And if that's not scary enough, a young boy named Eli went missing shortly after downloading the app, and he was never found.
Hey man, that's how you gotta you have to know what type of apps you download, man. Especially when it comes to these kids' apps, because they just use as a cover for something else, man. Like a simple kids app, bro. You think talking to a cat, you wouldn't think nothing of it. It's like it's the perfect cover, seekers. We learning out here. Got it. Call it like I see it.
Every time I go to chase it, it runs. I don't think it's a good idea I chase it anymore. You might think I'm playing with him. Every time. Alright, I see him, but I'm not gonna act like I see him. I see him right there ducking. Oh, what the hell's wrong with his head?
I see that too.
Why does he look like that? I want to try to zoom. Oh my god, why does he look like that?
All of the Rugrats are
Oh.
a part of Angelica's imagination. They aren't real. None of them. Chucky died in the same accident that his mom died. And that's why his dad is always so nervous and freaking out, because he has to deal with it. What about Tommy? Well, Tommy was a stillborn. And that's why Stu goes down into the basement late at night, making toys for the son he wish he had. That's why he's always depressed.
What are you doing?
Making chocolate pudding.
It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Why on earth are you making chocolate pudding?
Because I've lost control of my life.
And the twins ended up being a miscarriage. It was early in the pregnancy, so Angelica didn't know if it was going to be a boy or a girl, so she just imagined both. What about Susie? Susie is real and going along with all of Angelica's crazy imaginations because it's her only friend. She tries to make her happy at times. But the one baby that is real is Dill. Dill goes against Angelica's crazy imagination and doesn't do what she expects. And that's why Angelica freaks out on Dill all the time and gets so upset.
Rugrats, man, they weren't real the whole time? Show that there to a couple of people, their minds gonna be blown. The hell? The hell?
The reason I had to move out of my flat.
Okay.
I was home alone.
The hell is that? It's staring at her, and the dogs can see it too. It's like the dog can sense it. If you know that ain't your mom, don't open it up. How the hell they unlock the door?
Then what's your name then?
Yeah, what the hell? She was right now opening up that door. That was a creepy one. For
This
sure.
teenager became concerned for her ex and tried to help him. Little did she know she was about to be brutally killed. Lauren Astley was 18 years old from Wayland, Massachusetts.
She began dating Nathaniel Fujita when the pair were in high school together. Nathaniel was a popular football player. The pair were described as being quite on and off. On the 1st of April 2011, she decided to end the relationship with Nathaniel. However, it did not go down very well at all, and his friends reported that he became depressed and withdrawn. He stopped doing things he used to enjoy doing, and he just didn't seem to care about life anymore. In summer 2011, the pair attended the same graduation party. It was reported that at the party, Nathaniel got quite jealous of when Lauren was talking to other boys. Nathaniel got quite drunk, and Lauren's mum was actually at the party, and Lauren ran up to her crying. She said that Nathaniel wouldn't leave her alone and was harassing her. Now, Nathaniel got so angry at this party that he punched the tent that everybody was in and caused it to collapse.
Damn.
He was then asked to leave the party. It was reported that Nathaniel started drinking quite heavily and becoming even more depressed. His mum actually got so worried about him that she reached out to Lauren. She asked Lauren if she could help and maybe speak to him, and Lauren agreed because she was concerned. Lauren agreed to chat to him and meet him at his house on the 3rd of July 2011. Tragically, she had no idea she would not leave the house alive. She texted him stating here and entered the house at approximately 7:05 p.m. Nathaniel lured her into the garage, slit her throat and strangled her with a bungee cord. He then drove her car to Town Beach and disposed of the keys down a drain. After running home, he put her body in his car and dumped her in a secluded area nearby. Obviously, Lauren's family got really concerned when she didn't get home. Nathaniel, as obviously the last person she was meeting up with, was reported as a suspect. Police found bloodstains in his garage and a big bag full of clothes soaked in blood. Lauren's body was found not long after. Nathaniel's defense in court stated that he was suffering a massive depressive episode and therefore should not be held criminally responsible.
Really?
However, luckily he was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. People are calling this case the Incest House of Horrors. This case comes with just about the biggest trigger warning for the most horrific things you could hear. It was October 2023 in the quiet Polish village called Kidnapping. An arrest was about to happen which would shake the small community. The true horrors of what had been going on under everyone's noses were absolutely chilling. Peter Girasik was 54 years old. He and his wife Hannah had had a staggering 12 children together. Hannah had passed away 15 years prior, leaving Peter to look after the children on his own. Now, the house that he lived in was far from ideal for such a huge family. Locals were also often concerned about hearing cries and screaming from inside the home. They knew Peter had a close relationship with his 20-year-old daughter, Paulina, but they had no idea just how disturbing things were getting inside the home. That was until local workers at a cake shop nearby tipped off social services. They had serious concerns about what was going on in the property, and they were right to be worried. When officers arrived at the home, they could smell something absolutely potent. Upon closer inspection of the property, they found decomposing, dead babies in the basement. 2 of the tiny bodies were wrapped in plastic bags, and one was just lying on the floor. Now, at the time of the discovery, Peter wasn't actually living in this house with all 12 of his children. Some had escaped. He was living in the house with his daughter Paulina and his disabled son Damien. It would later be revealed that sometimes Damien was seen sat outside the house crying. He told officers that his dad would have S with his sister, so the dad's daughter, and regularly chase Damien out the house and beat him when he wanted to do this. Damien was abused and was given little more than cold rice to live off. Horrifically, police discovered that the deceased babies in the basement were actually the product of incest. The 3 babies found in the cellar were believed to have been killed just after they were born. Frustratingly, Peter had actually been on the radar of police. He'd been investigated 5 times over allegations of incest. He was arrested finally by police, and his daughter Paulina was also arrested. Thankfully, many of Peter's children had managed to flee, and his one daughter Cassia referred to him as a monster. He's now facing charges of murder, incest.
Facts, Part 510. Ariana Grande reportedly has a longtime stalker named Paige Neiman who tries to impersonate the famous singer. She's been obsessed with Grande since she was 12 years old and has allegedly undergone several plastic surgeries to look like her despite being only 20 years old. When the Titanic sank, the richest passenger on board was business mogul John Jacob Astor IV. who had enough money in his bank account to build 30 Titanics. He ended up giving up his spot in the final lifeboat to instead save the lives of a random woman and her daughter.
Hero.
These were the last photos of Garrett Miller, taken just minutes before a soccer goalpost tipped over and struck him in the head, killing him instantly. In 2013, a family dog named Killian was protecting a baby boy from an abusive babysitter by standing between them and growling at her. This made the boy's parents suspicious of the babysitter, so they hid a recording device under the couch and heard her swearing at the baby while possibly shaking and slapping him. The sitter eventually pleaded guilty to assault and battery of a child and was sentenced to 3 years in prison.
Man's best friend right there, bro.
Toys that have been banned because they're just so dangerous. The first one, I don't know how this was ever legal. It was a yard dart. It had this giant metal spear on the end. You would throw them basically at each other across the yard. These caused lots of damage. This is a little sky flyer. You pulled a string, it went flying up, but the dangerous thing here is it would poke people's eyes out because they came out with so much force. This is an atomic hit. It had uranium in it. People were getting radiation. Crazy. Follow for more.
Uranium?
Things happening in the world right now. After a woman took a DNA test for funsies, police used it to charge her grandmother with murder in a cold case. A woman divorced her husband in order to be with Brad Pitt, only to find out that it was an AI scam. A Philadelphia man who was awarded more than $4 million for an overturned murder conviction ended up pleading guilty in a case where he ended a man's life over $1,200. TSA stopped more than 6,000 weapons at airport security in 2024, and 94% of them were loaded. A Texas woman has set the record for donating more than 2,000 liters of her breast milk. The CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, has let the world know that Stevie Wonder demoed the Apple Vision Pro. A man disrupted a TV interview where a woman was speaking on her feelings of being uncomfortable in public places, and he refused to leave. The city of Bend, Oregon, recently ordered its citizens to stop putting googly eyes on statues.
Morbid Facts, Part 511. RFK Jr.'s gravelly speaking voice is caused by a rare neurological condition he developed in his early 40s called spasmodic dysphonia, which causes the muscles that open and close the vocal cords to spasm involuntarily. Here's what he used to sound like before this condition versus after.
And if somebody dumps something into the river that's poison, and it goes into a drinking water intake, and children drink that drinking water, that is child abuse.
I think those vaccines we need to have, again, true double-blind placebo-controlled trials on that. There's 25% of Americans.
While the true cause is unknown, people who do a lot of public speaking are far more likely to develop this condition. RFK required a titanium bridge in his vocal folds to be able to speak at all, and receives Botox shots in his vocal cords every 4 months. He says it's painful to hear himself speak and feels sorry for those who have to listen to him.
What happened? What caused it? I guess that's the real question we need to be asking. And public speakers, I guess they're aware of that. Something to think about. Expert level, we know.
Bro, what happened to all of the crazy inventions we used to come up with? Pedestrian safety catchers, baby cages for those who live in a city, multiple changing rooms, projectile nets for police to catch criminals, the freaking mono wheel, and now we've got this. What the hell? Bro, they were even rethinking childbirth from the ground up. Because let me introduce you to the centrifugal birth table. It is a legit invention that was even awarded a patent by the US government in 1963. It works by strapping a pregnant woman to a table lying flat on her back, and then when labor starts, it begins to spin, like fast. 8 Gs, kind of fast. That's a fighter pilot territory. The idea was that the centrifugal force would help assist getting the baby out naturally by supplementing the mother's pushing. And then once the big moment arrives, there's a casual safety net at the base of the table to catch the newborn. There was even a little nifty bell built in that would ring once the baby was caught. You know, just in case the doctor wasn't paying attention. Yeah, actually, maybe on second thought we're better off with this.
Unexplained police caught on camera that will make you question literally everything. This is a video of the president. Now, at first I didn't see what was happening here, but I slowed it down and zoomed in for you. Something's coming out of his sleeve. It looks like a little snake. What is this? Follow for more.
What was that, man? known people in power to be having some strange things goes on around him, but there was definitely something, man, that was coming out of his freaking coat jacket.
25 just got even crazier, part 9. Firstly, Mark Zuckerberg recently had a meeting with Meta employees and told them that everything I say leaks. It sucks. Well, and you probably ask, how do I know this? Well, the meeting's audio was leaked. Next, a man in the US was just arrested for the death of his own friend who claimed he could dodge bullets while they were intoxicated. Unfortunately, the man could not dodge bullets, and it costed his life. Finally, astronomers just discovered an asteroid named 2024 YR4. The good news is, it has a 99% chance of passing by Earth safely. However, the bad news is, it has a 1.3% chance of hitting Earth in the year 2032. But guys, let's not really worry about this until the year 2032 then.
This is why you should always lock your doors. A man in Venezuela was woken up in the dead of night to a strange haunting whistle. At first, he thought it was his mind playing tricks, but then he heard it again.
You hear that, right?
Dragging footsteps echoed through the silence, creeping towards his room.
Closer and closer.
But as whoever's outside arrives at the door, this happens. Something tries to get inside. The man believes he was visited by El Silbón, a wandering spirit of death from Venezuelan folklore, known to enter homes with open doors. The further it sounds, the closer he is.
Facts that might ruin your childhood. Most of your favorite animal actors are probably dead. Roald Dahl, the famous author of books like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and James and the Giant Peach, was actually really racist. He was known to be very hateful towards Jewish people. In reality, Pocahontas was 10 and John Smith was 28 years old when they met. And if the movie Finding Nemo was scientifically accurate, then Nemo's dad would have become a female after his mom died and mated with his son.
What? I had no idea a clownfish could even do that. That really just freaking made me question my whole childhood, man. The more you knew. That's the White House gate. He said, yeah, let me not do this.
Oh, yeah. Look at the dogs.
On sight. Got somebody on the roof too? Oh yeah.
Guys, this area's gonna be closed. Start going either way. Thank you. Thank you.
Extreme plastic surgery fails.
It went through with that.
Nobody has been able to explain this creepy viral video. For the past 11 years, a man who runs a TikTok account by the name of Dude, My House is Haunted has been pretty confident that there has been some paranormal activity within his home. He claims that ever since his wife passed away, there have been some strange and unusual things going on. So eventually he decided to leave cameras out and record what was happening and post it onto TikTok, which is the footage that you are about to see. In this video you can see a chair seemingly moving on its own. It moves somewhat slowly until it suddenly is violently pulled into the corner by the kitchen. A mysterious, shadowy figure can be seen moving behind the chair, and then suddenly out of nowhere, the chair is thrown into the kitchen. Now, of course, we're not really sure what happened in this video, but I'm having a hard time coming up with an explanation for this one.
Could be edit. Somebody could have been pulling it. That's the shadow.
Forbidden places that you can never visit. Number 1, Area 51 is a highly classified US Air Force facility that has been associated with UFOs, strange government cover-ups, and potentially testing alien technology. Although no one knows for sure what exactly goes on here, what we do know is that the facility itself is actually quite small. But the restricted area in total is about 90,000 acres of land. Next, Banga Fort is said to be the most haunted place in India. According to legend, there was a beautiful princess named Ratnavati, and she lived in this fort. Many men wanted her hand in marriage, one of whom was a black magician named Singya. The princess, however, rejected Singya, and he laid a curse on the fort which haunts it till this day. There have been numerous stories of people who entered the fort at night and were never seen again. As a result, people have been banned from entering the fort at night. Finally, the Bohemian Grove. The Bohemian Grove is said to be a secret group of very powerful people. It's alleged that many presidents and business leaders are part of this group. Every year they meet up in the woods and perform strange rituals, such as setting fire to a big owl statue. No one else is allowed to go in or take any photos. But a filmmaker named Ron Johnson once snuck a camera inside, and he presumably caught the world's most powerful men doing all of these strange things. For more?
It's a legend, man. That's not the first time we heard a group of powerful people came together to do some weird things. You know, man. You know the other groups out there. One of the most famous. I don't have to say it.
Here are creepy and strange videos that no one is able to explain. The next time you're in your room, you may want to check under your bed or behind your wardrobe. In this video, Andy explains his life story in the video chat, but something very sinister lurks in the background. Okay, pay close attention to what happens in the back. From what it looks like, popping right behind, you can see a figure with some hair. No one is sure what it is, but it might be an evil spirit. In this video, we can see a group of kids that are going to dance next to a field while the cows observe from afar. Although everything seems normal, as the kids walk into frame, a boy with a blue shirt emerges from nowhere. Pay close attention again as they walk in. Where does he come from? No one knows. This video starts out with a girl dancing to a popular song on TikTok. However, something very strange happens behind the scenes. As the girl dances, a strange-looking pale hand emerges. And no one knows where it comes from. Be sure to follow me on Instagram for more.
Beware your surroundings. You never know who's watching.
This man took the night shift because nobody wanted to, but a few nights later, he would find out why. Tim from the TikTok page Tim Saber got a job as a night guard at an undisclosed facility. In one of the corridors was an abandoned unit where most of the paranormal events would occur. One night, Tim left his phone to record the abandoned unit, and what he captured disturbed him. A small attic door begins to shake, as if someone or something is up there. Tim grabs a ladder to investigate. What he found is horrifying. There's something in the attic that Tim is not noticing.
I'm getting backroom vibes.
Suddenly, an unexpected loud noise startles Tim. But when he looks again, he finally sees it.
I see that. It's like a little statue. I'm gone, bro. Me personally, I'm out. Deuce.
I want to talk about the O'Fallon footage. On the eastern side of Missouri, a tape was recovered from a camera recorder of a missing man in 2002. This photo found in the footage has marked the most chilling mystery to have ever come out of this county. The man is pictured here. His name was Roy Hafer, and he was sort of an amateur investigator. You know, he would go to scenes with recent crimes, places where he could film, and he could sell the footage hopefully to a news station. And on an evening where he ventured to a hot spot where a woman had gone missing just a year prior, he would never make it home from that abandoned house. A police search was conducted by the following morning, as well as a search of the abandoned home and a search of this underpass where a significant amount of blood was recovered, but his body was not. They would also go on to find his camcorder, where they would find that final footage. This was the face seen in the last frame of that video footage.
Just disappeared off the face of the earth? What happened?
Animals you probably haven't seen as babies.
What do you mean haven't seen as babies?
Hyenas.
I've seen a baby hyena actually. Oh. Tell me that's not adorable. Why is there scary music in the background?
Camels.
Right, I've not seen a baby camel. I'll own that. Oh. Look at the eyelashes. I take it.
Hedgehogs.
That's Sonic.
Hedgehog. Oh, that looks like something else. Oh, he keeps making me take it back. Sloths. Oh my heart, I will adopt one right now.
Raccoons.
This is mine.
Rocket.
Okay, maybe not a rat. They're a bit reckless. Okay, all right, but yeah. Right, okay, you might have won me over there.
Skunks.
Oh no, there's not room for too many people in my house, and I'm enough. Oh.
I ain't getting that baby skunk. If you guys can pick any animals at Dot Secrets, which one would you get, man? I'm getting a hedgehog, bro. Call him Sonic. We know, man. Expert level. Right here.
The man seen stabbing that security camera was 29-year-old Waldo Mejia. Now, the neighbors who noticed this disturbing footage actually called the police on Waldo at the time, and he was arrested. But just a few months later, on January 5th of this year, Waldo attacked a 14-year-old boy who was walking to school. The 14-year-old, named Caleb Rios, was randomly targeted. There is no prior motive to this attack, and it's still unknown what caused Waldo to snap. But Waldo approached Caleb from behind and began stabbing. And unfortunately, Caleb, the 14-year-old victim, would die from his injuries. Now, this story is disturbing because Waldo had been arrested multiple times in the past, 4 times prior to this murder, including on other stabbing-related charges. Not only had he stabbed his neighbor's Ring video camera, but he had also stabbed somebody in another completely unprovoked attack in New York City. After he was arrested, Waldo was seen screaming expletives at reporters and the authorities, and still there has been no explanation as to why he targeted this random 14-year-old kid on his way to school. If you want to hear more true crime stories, listen to the podcast Murder in America that I co-host with my wife Courtney. It's available on all streaming platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
This video will prove you have thalassophobia.
You passed this video before. Oh, F1. Okay. This one's kind of getting to me, man. You that high up. It's open sea. If you fall, that's game over, man.
Abandoned house of murdered family.
Going in.
This was once a loving family home, but has sat empty since the 1990s when tragedy struck. The family were brutally murdered one night, but the killer was never found. There was talk that on the night in question, there had been an escape from the local psychiatric hospital. Although this was never proven, the locals still believe this was the case. The case was officially closed in the early 2000s.
To this day?
The house now sits, beds made, waiting for the family to come home. There are even plates left in the sink. Locals
locals and prospective buyers do not want the house because of dark figures that are supposedly seen at night.
Don't blame them. Me either. That's bad energy. Bad spirits. You good off that?
This was truly a shocking story, with an even sadder ending.
These are the
Sounds
four most
like
haunted
it.
dolls in the world. First is the Annabelle doll, which inspired the Conjuring movies, which, as you guys know, is one of the most haunted dolls in the world. She's able to not only move herself, but also move objects, and is supposedly inhabited by an extremely demonic being, forcing her to constantly be in a spirit box. Then have Ruby, which in my opinion is one of the most terrifying due to the fact that it's a porcelain doll, which all of our mothers and grandmothers have. Ruby doesn't do anything crazy, but the scariest part is supposedly the ancestor who had this doll prior passed while holding this doll, and now supposedly inhabits it. And it's a porcelain doll, which makes it absolutely terrifying. Then have Letta, who's a 200-year-old doll found underneath a house in Australia, said to make noises in the night, move by itself, and the owner has a specific account of when he was moving, he heard this doll scream while being in the trunk, screaming, "Let me out. I'm good on everything that." Then you have Robert the doll, who in my opinion is probably the most haunted and cursed doll on this list. Said to be so cursed that if you take a picture or look at him without his permission, he can curse you. And this has happened to multiple people who decided to film Robert without his permission. This doll not only moves by itself, but the previous owner has made multiple statements of hearing this doll run inside of the attic. On top of that, the neighbors have seen Robert peeking out the window in the second story, while no one was up there. These dolls, they're scary.
March of 2012,
Keep 'em away from me.
a 5-year-old girl named Maria sat on the floor of her kitchen in a city in northeast Brazil, eating an empada. Just then, the front door opened, and in walked Maria's mother. Right behind her was this young woman. This young woman wants to become her new nanny. In the past, there had been other women who had come by to be her nanny, and it didn't seem to last very long. She told Maria that as soon as they were done, the new nanny would come outside and join her. And after a whole hour had passed by, still this new nanny had not come outside. A month later, Maria was out in her backyard. She heard a commotion happening inside of her house. And then all of a sudden, these uniformed police officers came charging out the back door towards Maria. It would turn out, Maria's father, George Silvera, was not actually her father, nor was Maria's mother, Isabel Silvera, her actual mother, nor was her aunt, Bruna Silva, actually her aunt. They were instead members of a cult called the Cartel Sect. The literal purpose of the Cartel Sect was to eliminate women they deemed unclean in order to reduce and purify the world's population. They would shoo Maria out into the backyard, and then they would murder the nanny. They would then butcher them and stuff the human meat into their famous empadas and sell them to the people in town. The biggest shock of the story is actually the real identity of little 5-year-old Maria. She was actually the daughter of the very first victim of the Cartel Sect. And ever since, they had just kept Maria and treated her like she was a member of the family. George, Isabel, and Bruna, Maria's fake family, were convicted of 3 murders. As for Maria, according to recent news articles, she was reunited with distant family.
No words for that case, man. That's just mind-blowing. Truly. We seen this, man. We know what this is.
Bizarre facts that'll blow your mind. A bolt of lightning can reach up to 53,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. Researchers found by flossing your teeth, you're actually helping to improve your memory. Jack Daniel, the inventor of Jack Daniel's whiskey, died from kicking a safe with his foot. This caused his toe to break, which ended up getting infected, which ultimately led to his death. And finally, Dwayne Johnson holds the world record for the most selfies taken in 3 minutes with 105.
How was he doing that? He was just going like boom, 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 boom.
2024
What?
just got even crazier. Part 19. Firstly, meet retired engineer Tom Brown. And after retiring, he wanted to make a difference in the world by saving rare and lost apples from going extinct. And now in 2024, after nearly 25 years of doing this, Tom has saved around 1,200 types of apples from going extinct. You're a legend, Tom. Next, new words were just added to the dictionary, and I'm going to tell you the 3 words that really stuck out to me the most. The first one being bed rotting, which means somebody who spends many hours in a day in their bed with snacks or an electronic device. But it gets more bizarre, because at number 2 is touch grass, which means to participate in real-world activities instead of online ones.
times.
Finally, the last word is the ick, which means a sudden feeling of dislike for something or someone. So, how do you guys feel about these new words that were added to the dictionary in 2024?
Touch grass, my
I
guy.
got stalked by a coyote. Keep your eye on the background, and then what happens in like 2 seconds.
Here's some coyote advice you never asked for from a man who's never had to deal with them. Anyway, y'all know hazing? No, not the college thing. No. Hazing is putting the fear of God in a wild animal to factory reset its behavior. Here's an example. Basically, you want to give him PTSD so he doesn't come close to anything human. Basically, your goal is to have him racially profiling anything on 2 legs. Jokes aside, coyotes are naturally afraid of us. It's when they lose that fear that the trench puppy becomes a problem. And nothing does that faster than when people feed one, even without realizing it. That goes for any animal. But if you bully them on sight, you help them relearn the price of effing around. It doesn't matter what you say, as long as it's with volume and conviction. Obviously, there are exceptions, like if the coyote's hurt, sick, or with kids, and you want to fall back, or else you might have to cash that check. But you gotta think about how they see us. Coyotes have been getting generationally jumped by wolves. But they also know if they stay close enough, they can get leftovers. Coyotes basically treat us like another wolf, so if one steps up, remind him who you are. Because history has proven what happens when you don't. Tourists in South Africa fed the baboons so much that they started expecting it, to the point where they don't fear or respect people. That's how you get carjacked by baboons. Macaques in India have gotten so used to people that the government had used their fear of an even bigger monkey called a langur against them. But since owning a langur is illegal, yep, that man got paid to do that. So unless y'all want to be out here wearing wolf suits, get to hazing.
Who would have thought that the same guy that plays Art the Clown could pull off such an incredible interpretation of the Joker? And I genuinely believe that with the right director and the right script, this guy could actually be the real cinematic Joker. If you haven't seen the 13-minute short Joker's Wild on YouTube, please, I highly recommend it. It's freaking awesome. Because David Howard Thornton, the same exact guy who brought this sadistic clown to the big screen, can also give us one hell of a freaky-ass Joker. Which kind of feels like a more sadistic combination of Cesar Romero and Mark Hamill's version of the Joker, giving us this terrifying cartoonish performance that we haven't really seen in the live-action versions yet. Also, most importantly, the dude can laugh.
He nailed the laugh.
Yeah, that'll do it. Even the way that they designed him in this short, it feels like they ripped him out of the cartoon and put him into this world that just feels so uncanny. But seriously, go watch the full short on YouTube, because I'd really like to see what could be done with this version of the character.
We've already talked about this gigantic Moby Dick animatronic that is under the water and has been there since the 60s, but we're going to talk about it again, because I had a nightmare about it, and I'm making that everyone else's problem. So yes, this gigantic Moby Dick animatronic was put there in, I think, 1967, and it has since sunk and is still under there. This is a photo taken in 2005 of it just completely submerged underwater. People on YouTube actually have videos of them diving under there, and it's just like a carcass of itself, and I don't even want it. You can't see it very clearly because it's so murky. But like the first thing that started going bad on this animatronic was its jaw was so heavy that it couldn't sit all the way up, so its jaw is eventually what brought it down. Like its gigantic heavy jaw just made it sink to the bottom of the lake. Like see, here's it when its jaw was completely down and it's just sitting completely up like that. It used to come up and down. I'm going to show you a video later, but this is it without its jaw, and it And yes, this thing is absolutely huge and life-size. Like here's it with a boat of people. Ew. Here's it when it was being transported into the water for the very first time. Look how tiny these people are in comparison to this gigantic, huge whale animatronic. Whales are my worst fear of all time, but a whale animatronic completely submerged underwater. Miss me with that. Like, of all the animatronics that I have ever covered on this channel, this one scares me the absolute most. I cannot imagine falling in that water with that decayed, horrific, huge fake whale. I would cease to exist. Like, it looks so sad too. Look at Pookie. He looks so sad. So watch this video of it moving and let me know how you feel. Also, if TikTok is banned, please follow me on my YouTube account. It's the exact same name that's on here. I'm going to be doing this exact same thing in the form of YouTube Shorts. I really hope that doesn't actually end up happening. But if so, please check me out on my YouTube. I love you all. Watch this.
Like, imagine that. Coming out of the water, you think that you know it's an animatronic.
This pedophile
pedophile who participated in the events of January 6th might get away with his crimes against children. Listen, I know that this is a hot-button political issue, but please, no matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, stick with me here. Because this guy might get away with the possession, distribution, and manufacturing of CP, or child pornography. So this is David Daniel, a man who was there on January 6th, actively participating in the events of that day. Here's a picture of him from that afternoon. So at one point, the FBI was looking into David Daniel based on assault and trespassing charges they wanted to file. And so in November of 2023, they executed a search warrant on his home. And what they found inside of his home is unbelievably disturbing. Obviously, investigators took a look at his iPhone and other electronic devices. And on David's electronic devices, they discovered videos and photographs of him raping 2 young girls in completely different cases that happened in different counties. One of the minors that had already accused him of this was under the age of 12 years old. Apparently, from 2015 to 2019, he had groomed this girl. He had forced her to allow him to take photographs and videos of her when she was nude, and he forced her to shower with him and do other things that I can't talk about here. So on September 20th of last year, he was rearrested on possession of CP and sexual exploitation of a minor charges. However, because of this pardon that he recently received, his legal team could now argue that that search warrant wasn't justified, and this could cause all of these charges to be thrown out of the window. I mean, the public needs to know about this stuff. Here's a guy who's responsible for the rape of 2 minors, one under the age of 12 years old, the other's age is unknown. And this took place over a period of 4+ years, where he groomed these girls, he forced them to pose for nude photographs, he made them shower with him, and he did so many other things to these girls that I can't talk about here. And because of that pardon, because of what that means for this legal case, the lawyers for this guy could literally ask for that search warrant to be nullified. I don't know what the proper terminology is, but they could essentially get all that stuff thrown out of the window because the investigators wouldn't have found the CP on his electronic devices if they hadn't executed that search warrant. So, like I said, no matter what side of the political spectrum you fall on, this should disgust you because there's no way that this guy should be walking free. I have no sympathy and no empathy for child predators, especially a guy like this who's a repeat offender, a serial offender, who victimized children over a period of years. And this is just dangerous stuff. No matter what you think of his actions and the events of that day, nobody should justify what this guy did and argue that.
Brain facts you didn't know about. The brain will protect itself even if it means misery to you or death. Inhaling smoke in the middle of a burning house. Brain will make you stop breathing and pass out. Stuck in the middle of a cold place. You will fall asleep to conserve energy and never wake up again. Had your leg torn off by a bear. Here's adrenaline. So you can save your brain even if there's a huge risk of infection or further injury. You and your brain work together most of the time, but when push comes to shove, you are sacrificed.
Survival of the fittest, even for your brain, bro.
Normal looking photos with a disturbing backstory. This photo might just look like a girl scribbling on a blackboard, but it was actually taken in a school for emotionally disturbed children in Poland. This girl's name is Tereska and she grew up in a concentration camp. But what's even more disturbing about this photo is that the assignment was to draw what home looks like. And while all the other students drew pictures of houses, this is what Tereska drew. Now this might look like any other high school photo until you look closer. You'll see these boys in the very back suggestively pointing at the camera. Their names are Eric and Dylan, and just a few weeks after this photo was taken, they unalived 12 students and 1 teacher in the Columbine shooting.
Psychology hacks you need to know. If you ask someone to do a small favor, their subconscious mind will register that they like you because they're doing a favor for you. Showing the palms of your hands while talking to someone subconsciously communicates that you have nothing to hide and you can be trusted. Whenever you are introducing a new idea to someone, if you lead with the words, "This might not be for you, but," it naturally engages the person's interest and makes it feel like it probably is for them.
Really?
If you need to remember to do something tomorrow, just put something in your room out of place. The next day you'll see this item out of place and it will remind you of what you associated it with. If you are procrastinating right now, stop telling yourself that you have loads of work to do. Instead, just tell yourself you only have to work for 5 minutes. You'll most likely continue to work even after 5 minutes. People who are lying normally blink more than usual, hide the palms of their hands, mess with their hair or appearance, and use either abnormally long or short sentences. Follow for more.
Really? Those tales, man, you gotta pay attention to them.
Worst ways people have been unalived. Part 5. The woman who was embalmed alive.
This is 28-year-old Katerina Fudieva from Russia. She had recently been diagnosed with ovarian cysts and wanted to have them removed. So on March 15th of 2018, she went in for surgery. The very routine operation went just as planned. This is when the fatal mistake comes in. Instead of her being administered a saline drop, she was given formaldehyde. If you don't know, formaldehyde is something morticians typically use to preserve and keep a body as fresh as they can. The staff tried flushing her body with water, but to no avail. The chemical started to attack her body. For over 12 hours, her organs started to fail and shut down. She remained unconscious for 3 weeks, all while being hooked up to machines to try and keep her organs from failing, but she soon passed.
And bombed alive? That's one of the most craziest things we've heard yet. That might be an edit, man. If you guys see any edits, like I said, call them out.
These are human body parts that may disappear in the future. First up is body hair. Originally, it protected ancient humans from harsh weather conditions. However, over time, with modern clothes and changes in environmental conditions, human body hair has significantly decreased and continues to do so. Many scientists believe it might eventually completely disappear. Next are wisdom teeth. They used to serve an evolutionary purpose for ancient humans who had much rougher diets and needed more chewing power. But our diets have softened and our jaws have become increasingly smaller. As a result, they have no space to properly grow in, and many people need to have them surgically removed.
Yeah.
Many babies are now being born without wisdom teeth, and scientists believe this will eventually be the standard. Finally, we have male nipples. Everyone starts as female in the womb, and before the Y chromosome kicks in for males, nipples have already formed. When the baby becomes male, the prolactin levels decrease, making the male nipples non-functional. So while it's debated, some scientists think they'll disappear.
Creepy fact you probably don't know.
Nipples will disappear?
Part
What
two.
the heck?
At one time, doctors thought that babies didn't feel pain. It took up until 1987 for the American Academy of Pediatrics to declare that it was unethical to operate on babies without anesthesia. So that means for years, babies were forced to just sit there and suffer through surgery without any form of pain control or anesthetics. So yeah, that's kind of scary.
Here's some random
Yes,
facts
it
that
is.
will mess with the way you see the world. Astronaut means star sailor. Astro meaning star and not meaning sailor. That is such a cool name. High heels were originally made for butchers so they wouldn't get blood on the bottom of their shoes. The first ever webcam was created to check on a coffee pot just to make sure it didn't catch on fire. In Switzerland, it's illegal to own just one guinea pig. You need at least 2 or more. I think it's because they get depressed if they're alone. I'm not even joking. Australia is wider than the moon. How does that work? The Eiffel Tower is taller in the summer. This is because metal expands when it gets hot, right? A jiffy is an actual unit of time. It's 1/1000th of a second. In Japan, there's over 200 flavors of Kit Kats. I didn't know that there were 200 flavors, period. Queen Elizabeth was a trained mechanic in the military. That's a baller move, though. Become a mechanic and then a queen. Do you know the only letter that doesn't appear in a U.S. state name? I'll give you 3 seconds. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Q.
The letter Q.
Weird ass facts that I know for some reason. If you're allergic to eating shrimp, then you also can't eat cicadas. Male hedgehogs, pleasure themselves the same way that us guys do. So be careful when you pick one up, because that white stuff on their feet is not mayonnaise. Saddam Hussein actually wrote a romantic novel. Platypuses don't have nipples, so they literally just sweat milk. Ducks will have sex with literally anything. Literally anything. Literally anything. On average, cannibals find palms to be the tastiest. Crocodiles gallop, just like a horse does. The thought of this is really scary though, not gonna lie.
There is something sinister that's occurred in the heart of
Galloping?
An 8-year-old girl has completely vanished in or near the lake, which of course has left her family and loved ones completely devastated. This place is nestled within a remote and desolate swamp. Caddo Lake is shrouded in mystery. It's dark trees, murky waters, and there are countless hidden spots that would make it perfect for someone to disappear. As the search for Anna continues, there has been a startling discovery. There are secrets buried deep within this eerie lake, far more than I think anybody could have imagined. Now, this chilling premise is the basis for the latest suspense and mystery film, produced by M. Night Shyamalan, premiering on Max Thursday, October 10th. Don't miss the stars Dylan O'Brien and Eliza Scanlon as they unravel the terrifying secrets hidden beneath the surface, only on Max.
Okay, well, wait. Should we check it out, man? See, because like I said, you guys know I'm not into scary movies, but thrillers and things, I'll check those out.
Truths about fears.
Jayme there.
That actually makes sense if you really think about it, because like I'm starting to put two and two together. Like I said, obviously I'm not afraid of being in a dark room or something like that, or like I said, being outside when it's really dark. But you just don't, when it's dark, you don't know, you can't see, so you don't know what's actually there. So that actually makes sense. She's scared of the things that could be in the dark, and not actually scared of the darkness itself. Well, some people actually could be scared of both, but I think I fall into that category, bro. Expanding my thoughts, seekers.
The darkest conspiracies in the world. The Mandela effect. A theory that suggests that our current reality has somehow been shifted into an alternate universe. Such evidence includes things like the Berenstain Bears being Berenstain Bears, fruit of the loom, with and without the cornucopia. Even the memory of Mandela dying in prison back in the 1980s versus 2013. Supposedly created by the CIA as a psyops. Are we really in an alternate reality? Hit the plus sign if you think so.
Hit that thumbs up bump if you think we're in an
There are some
alternate
of the most
reality.
random animals people have been killed by. In July 2013, a Brazilian man was asleep in bed when a cow fell through his roof right on top of him. The 3,000-pound animal had been grazing when it stepped on a thinly corrugated roof and fell and suplexed the man whose only crime was sleeping on the wrong side of the bed. The man seemed okay and went to the hospital, but then died of internal bleeding before even seeing a doctor. In the water, it isn't the sharks you have to worry about. It's the needlefish, because they'll yeet themselves out of the water at 37 miles per hour. Getting vibe checked by a fish fast enough to get a speeding ticket is one creative way to get put in a Twitter bio. One Indonesian woman tragically got pierced right above the eye, and even though she was rushed to the hospital, she flatlined a few hours later. One needlefish managed to stab a 10-year-old boy through the eye and into his brain, killing him almost instantly. Peacocks are low-key ops. A man in Thailand was minding his own business when out of nowhere his pet peacock mauled him, slashing at him with his claws. This velociraptor in drag managed to put this man in a coma. By the time he reached the hospital, they discovered there was a small blood clot in his brain. And he never woke up, so next time you see a peacock roaming a zoo unsupervised, just remember what they're capable of.
This war game changes the appearance of the monsters based on your personality, and it's a Silent Hill game. In Silent Hill Shattered Memories, there is only one monster. It's called Raw Shock, and it can actually change its appearance based on what you do in the game. The game actually pays attention to what your character does and looks at while exploring in the overworld. Yes, you heard that right, what you look at in the game. One example is if you spend a lot of time looking at things like beer bottles, the monster will actually appear to look diseased. Levels are broken up by psychiatric evaluations that also change certain aspects of the game. These can lock you into certain playstyles that affect both the ending and the way the monsters look. It's one of the most underrated horror games I have ever played, and maybe one day we'll do a video talking about the ending.
Silent Hill, they just made the Silent Hill 2 remake just came out. Man, to the
Movies that are
games,
even more
bro.
disturbing than Human Centipede. Just when you thought you've seen it all, I'm here to bring you the worst of the worst. We're gonna go from the least to the most disturbing.
Okay.
So in third place, we have The Sadness. This is a Taiwanese horror movie about a virus that makes people act out their darkest thoughts. So imagine the most twisted things you could ever think of, then imagine if you couldn't control yourself and needed to act on them. This movie gets very dark very quickly. In second place, we have Serbian Film. Yes, that means there's one more movie that I think is even more disturbing than Serbian Film, but just wait for it. Serbian Film is about a kind of actor who gets tricked into performing very intense things. Just to give you an idea of how disturbing this movie gets, it's in over 40 countries. And in first place, this is the most disturbing movie I've ever watched in my life. Trauma is a 2017 Chilean horror movie. The first 5 minutes of this movie is more disturbing than all 3 of the Human Centipede movies combined. And basically, it's about the son of and it shows how his father prepares him for that job. Then there's a time jump and we see a group of women on vacation and they run into him. If you like disturbing movies, then follow for more.
These are the
checking those
scariest
out.
planets ever found, part 3.
Up first is 51 Pegasi b. This planet is mainly made up of hydrogen and helium, and the temperature on this planet is over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This planet is so hot that the iron on this planet gets vaporized and then forms iron vapor clouds. These clouds will then produce molten iron rain, which just sounds completely brutal. Next up is Korat XL 3b. The degree of pressure put on a human being walking on this planet would be completely insane. A human on this planet would weigh almost 50 times heavier than they would on Earth. That means that a 180-pound man on this planet would weigh more than 9,000 pounds. The amount of stress
would crush a human being's skeletal system instantly.
And yeah, they keep talking about how they want us to expand to different planets. That's proof right there, bro. We don't know what we getting ourselves into. We getting freaking iron rain. Your skull, freaking system's gonna get crushed instantly. I vote we stay here on Earth. What do you guys say?
The world's most dangerous conspiracy theories. This picture represents conspiracy theories from the most well-known to the darkest. Some of these theories say once you learn the truth, there's no return. For this series, we're going to be picking some from each category until we reach tier 10, the point of no return. Tier 10 is so scary that people are saying I'm literally going to die before I even reach tier 10. So make sure to follow to see the journey. Okay, so tier 3. This is the point of no return. Today we're going to be talking about the Denver Airport. The Denver International Airport is located in Denver, Colorado. Before we get to the conspiracies, let's go over the facts. During the process of building this airport, they apparently went over budget by $2 billion, and supposedly even more than that. They were also 16 months behind schedule. So now we're going to talk about some of the theories on why they went over a budget of $2 billion and why it took so long to build this airport. One of the most popular theories is that it's an underground facility for the global elite. There's a lot of facts to back this one up, but a construction worker claimed that the reason the delay was so long is because they were moving 5 buildings downstairs. And by downstairs, I mean in this underground tunnel. The second theory is the Mustang statue. This statue is a blue horse on its heels right in the center of the airport. Later, it was given the nickname Lucifer. The reason they call it Lucifer is because of the fourth horseman in the apocalypse in the book of Revelations. And the fourth horseman represents death. A lot of people have taken videos of this horse and you can literally see red eyes even though there's no LED lights inside of them. The crazy thing is the sculptor who built the statue actually was killed by it. The statue fell down, crushing him and splitting one of his arteries, killing him instantly. So maybe the reason for the delay was to hide something sinister. The final theory that most people believe is this is a foundation for the Freemasons. The Freemasons have some of the most powerful people in the world, which leads people to speculate that this is a headquarters for the Illuminati. There is even a statue that says March 19th, 1994, and those numbers equal the number 33, which is the highest level of Freemasonry. And under the date, the commission name is New World, hinting to the New World Order. The New World Order is thought to be a small group of people controlling the entire world under one government, creating total power and total wealth. So, do you think this airport accidentally spent over $2 billion, or were they hiding a much darker secret? Make sure to like and follow because we have a lot more to learn. Also, my YouTube channel is Austin Fro. Tomorrow I'm going to be posting a full version of Tier 4, so that way you guys can watch the entire thing.
Time travel tips, part 3.
Discuss it down below.
Southampton in 1912, and make sure you bring a cloth and a bottle of chloroform. Take 1 month of Morse code classes. Purchase a ticket to cross the Atlantic on the RMS Titanic. At 8:30 p.m. on April 14th, walk into the radio room and sneak up behind the operator. Quickly cover his face with the chloroform cloth, knocking him out. Carefully hide his body, and then send out a distress signal. At 11:40, you'll hear a horrible screeching noise. As the ship begins to fill with water at midnight, the RMS Carpathia will arrive, saving everyone on board before Titanic goes under.
Okay. Follow all those damn steps. That's an edit. Call them out, man. Like I said, if you guys see any edits, call them out because I might miss some too.
Dark web videos you were never supposed to see, part 1. The first video we're watching is going to be the Glesgord video. The full video was actually only 2 minutes long, but YouTube removed it after only 153 people watched it. The 153 people who viewed this video apparently gouged their eyes out and sent it to the YouTube headquarters. The video itself was only viewed by one YouTube staff member who apparently passed out during the first 45 seconds of the video. The person who uploaded the video was never found and there was never an IP address to find him. The crazy part about this video is that 50% of people see that he smiles and the other 50% say he keeps a straight face. So you guys are going to decide.
Shaved face or just smiling. I definitely saw something in the eyes.
Didn't happen in part 2. Airport security is non-existent. You simply show up and walk to the gate. The U.S. government has invested in a universal healthcare system instead of the Iraq War. Pete Davidson works with his dad as a firefighter in New York City.
These are some unsettling facts that you likely never knew about. Part 4. Most laughing tracks that you hear in movies and TV shows were recorded back in the 50s. So, You're essentially listening to dead people laughing. If the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs had hit 30 seconds later, dinosaurs would still be alive, which likely means that we wouldn't. Studies show that you're 7 times more likely to die by killing yourself rather than somebody killing you. Like and follow for part 5.
On October 30th, 2022, police received a phone call from a woman claiming that her ex-boyfriend was in her family's home and he shouldn't be there due to the fact that she had filed a restraining order against him a week prior. While on the phone with police, dispatchers then heard shots ring out and 4 people were killed by Joseph Castorina. Thankfully, his ex-girlfriend and her 2 children survived, but unfortunately 3 of her family members, as well as 1 man who rented an RV on their property, passed away. Despite fleeing the country, he was found in December 2022, and as of recently, the now 22-year-old was charged with 4 life in prison sentences. What are your thoughts?
So about
It's just an evil case.
3 little girls were murdered in a dance class by a teenager, and 10 others were injured. Of course, that teenager was arrested, but official sources never identified who this guy is exactly. There were several protests and riots in the UK across several cities in the country, and there was a mosque that was destroyed and burned down as a form of revenge because of what happened in Southport. About 1 day later, after this incident, the government, the media, and the police have officially identified who the killer is. He's a teenager named Axel Rudakubana from Rwanda. That is a Christian, not a Muslim, a Christian. Are you gonna burn down a church now that you know he's a Christian? Is that the natural response we as people should have? Official sources confirmed who's the person behind this misinformation. And let me tell you, this is how dangerous misinformation can be.
It can be.
It can lead you to do the wrong things. The person behind this misinformation is Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson is an anti-Islam activist. Most of the biggest platform he has is on X, Twitter. That was where he tweeted that this guy, the murderer, was a Muslim. And you know, because of his contribution to the misinformation, these riots happened. And innocent people were injured. And a mosque was burned down. I'm not sure if it was one or more than one. To be honest, I don't even know the guy. I just heard of him today. And from an official news site that said Tommy Robinson was the main contributor to the misinformation that led to these riots. People are so gullible in this day. Really. Like, I mean this with no offense, but you guys are. And it's really bad.
It's power behind words, man. That's why you have to be careful what you say. Like you said, misinformation, it can be a dangerous thing, man. You never know what your words can lead to.
Remember this one story you told
Just for a
about this
damn
guy
party.
who has this kid and he's saying that he sees his wife, but she's actually dead.
She's a jinn.
She's a jinn, yeah.
Yeah.
She's a jinn. So
The story happened in Pakistan.
yeah.
Yeah, some guy married a jinn, yeah.
That story was
This story's messed up. Actually, you might have seen videos on TikTok about this because it was blowing up in Yemen and in some parts of the Arab world. You know, in Yemen there are Houthis. Well, in one of the Houthi bases, one of the Houthi soldiers went out, saw somebody he didn't know. Hey, who are you? He looks at him and runs away. He shoots him. Person dies. He goes, checks the body, person's dead. Goes back to tell report it to the general or whoever. And I killed the person, I don't know who he is. They go back, the body's not there.
What?
Where's the body? I don't know. No blood, no nothing. I said nothing happened.
Chills. Oh my god. Okay.
He killed the jinn. He killed the jinn. He killed the jinn, bro. The next day, same night, a whole court system of jinns possessed this man. There was a judge, jinn world, judge, prosecutor, and the victim's father, the jinn. the father of the jinn that died, all talking using the guy's voice, and he was obviously having a lot of seizures in between, saying that, by the way, they were Muslim jinns, so they don't immediately attack. There is a system, there is a law in place, they follow the same Quran, you know? They didn't kill that soldier, but they let him off the hook with a punishment. So either they had to take somebody from his family life, or they kill him, because that's what the father said. He said, let me kill this man, he killed my son, let me kill him. But the judge refused, and there was something he had to pay as a diya.
What?
And I don't know what it was and how it worked out, but the guy suffered a lot, man.
He killed the jinn. So he killed the jinn. The jinn was the human being?
Yeah, he shapeshifted. Jinns can shapeshift. They're not perfect human being form, but they can shapeshift enough for you to look at them and think they're humans.
So he killed the jinn.
Killed the jinn. And you know, sometimes they say, when you see a lizard, sometimes they say part of the sunnah is to kill it, right? Because it could be a jinn. And if you take the lizard's life and it was a jinn, the actual jinn dies. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes they
If I kill the Titara, it's not gonna come after my family.
It can't. That's why there was another story in Qatar of a guy that shot a black cat. It turns out to be a jinn.
Oh yeah, I heard that. I heard that a lot before. They say if you see a black cat, be cautious. You know, it might be jinn.
It might be. Then they went and they say, hey, you tried to kill one of our people. Be careful. You do that one more time, we'll bury your head in another continent and your body in Antarctica. Like we will separate you in half, like literally.
Damn.
Well, they can't do that. They really can't.
25 just got even crazier, part 1.
Let's talk about
Firstly, passengers on a flight departing from Hong Kong International Airport left after midnight January 1st. Well, due to them crossing time zones, they landed in Los Angeles International Airport on December 31st at 8:30 p.m., allowing them to celebrate New Year's 2 times in a row. Next, in the country of Zambia, on New Year's Eve, a police officer who was intoxicated freed 13 prisoners so they could celebrate the new year out in public. Well, there is now currently a manhunt for the 13 prisoners, and the police officer was arrested. Finally, one thing I was not expecting to happen in 2025 already is to have a judge wearing a VR headset to experience a crime in first person. Do you guys feel like this is the right way to use technology?
These teenagers were killed in their sleep by the last person anyone would expect. It was the 1st of November 2018 in Oklahoma. Kason Tolliver was 18 years old. His sister was 16-year-old Chloe. They also had a younger 14-year-old sister who remains anonymous. Kason was a talented football player and was a senior in high school. Chloe was described as a sweet, kind girl who loved cheerleading. Their mum was 43-year-old Amy Hall. In the early hours of the morning on the day in question, she crept into her son's bedroom and shot him in the head. He was instantly killed. Now his friend was sleeping over in the same room and started to call police. Amy then walked into Chloe's room that she shared with her younger sister and shot them both. The younger sister was grazed in the neck but managed to flee to the bathroom. It was there that she convinced her mum to hand over the gun. Police sped round to the scene at around 6:30 a.m. that morning and rushed Chloe to hospital. Tragically, she was declared brain dead and passed away 4 days after. Meanwhile, Amy had fled the house and was involved in a high-speed car chase with police. She was eventually apprehended and taken into custody. Amy later claimed that she killed her children in order to save them from her estranged husband. There was allegedly an ongoing custody battle. She has pleaded guilty and been sentenced to life in prison.
Those custody battles
You never know.
always have tragic endings.
There is a shack called the Devil's Toy Box in Louisiana, and for some reason people who go in lose their mind. Do you know the tingly feeling you get when you eat a pineapple?
Yeah.
Well, that's because the pineapple is eating you. It has an enzyme called bromelain, and that enzyme eats meat, which you're made of. Now you can check if your phone activity is being monitored. Just click on share, slide all the way to the end, click more. And if any apps appear before your contacts, you should delete it immediately. Sharks have been around for 420 million years, meaning they have survived all 4 big mass extinctions, making them older than dinosaurs, Mount Everest, and even some trees on this planet.
Damn.
The person who invented homework came up with the idea as a punishment for students.
It worked.
Morbid Facts, Part 476. This 2022 photo shows 40-year-old Russian mother Anna Uskova moments before she jumped into a frozen river. She was apparently following a Christian Orthodox tradition of Epiphany and believed that jumping into the frigid water would rid her of sin. However, she jumped in at a bad angle and was quickly swept away by the powerful current, trapping her under the ice. Her husband immediately jumped in to rescue her while their children screamed in horror, but his efforts were unsuccessful and her body was recovered 10 days later. This was the truck belonging to Missouri town bully Ken McElroy after he was killed in broad daylight by an angry mob in 1981. Over the course of his life, McElroy was accused of dozens of felonies, including assault, child molestation, burglary, animal cruelty, arson, and statutory grape. He always managed to escape serving time until eventually being convicted of attempted murder, but McElroy appealed and was released on bond before he immediately threatened to kill several people. An angry mob then showed up at the bar he was drinking at and shot him several times in his truck while he was attempting to leave. Despite over 40 different witnesses, nobody admitted to seeing the murder take place, and no one has been charged to this day.
They stuck true to the code. They said stitches. Snitches get stitches, bro. That's definitely not it.
Facts about the ocean that are scarier than any horror movie. First up, I bet you didn't know that you can literally melt in the ocean. Because in the deep sea, there's something called hydrothermal vents that can reach up to 750 degrees Fahrenheit, which will allegedly cause your body to melt. But by then, you probably wouldn't even notice because all your bones would have likely been crushed by the pressure. The next fact is honestly even scarier to think about. You know how we have so many scary stories about sea creatures, like sirens, the Loch Ness Monster, or giant squids? Well, a lot of the creatures that used to be just a story are slowly being discovered as real. For example, the giant squid, which scientists found were not only real and over 59 feet in length, but are also cannibals. If that's not bad enough, here's more. Because the ocean is basically a giant graveyard. In 2014, researchers diving into an underwater cave in Mexico found the remains of a girl estimated to be 13,000 years old, meaning there's a high likelihood that if you go missing or drown that you would probably never be found. There's also 10 million viruses in every drop of seawater, meaning viruses in the ocean outnumber all of the stars in the Milky Way. The actual number is estimated to be 1 nonillion, which is a number I've never heard before, but here it is written out. That itself makes me never want to go swimming in the ocean again. Follow for more.
Extinct animal.
Hey man, be careful when y'all be swimming and jumping into those lakes when y'all doing dares, bro. Cause now there's 1 million viruses in the water, man. Didn't even know that was a damn number until today. We learning.
Most scientists are close to reviving. Firstly, the woolly mammoth. It was believed to have gone extinct 25,000 years ago, but scientists discovered hundreds that just died recently. So they're planning to put its DNA inside African elephants, and they expect to bring them back in the next 5 years. Next, dodo birds were hunted to extinction 400 years ago, but a preserved head was recently discovered. By mixing that DNA with a maned pigeon, dodo birds should be coming back in 15 years. Finally, expect to see saber-toothed tigers outside soon, because scientists discovered DNA preserved in tar pits, and they plan to combine it with African lions. So this 10-inch toothed beast should be coming back in 10 years.
Morbid facts.
Can't mess with the
Part
ecosystem.
477. In 2016, a man who'd been continuously stalking Miranda Cosgrove apparently plotted to murder her. For 3 days, the stalker had been burying various weapons in Cosgrove's backyard, including knives and a rope. One day, he spent hours pacing around the area and eventually shot at a woman who looked like the iCarly actress. The man then performed self-immolation before turning the gun on himself right in Cosgrove's yard. Miranda has stated that she still lives in the same house, but refuses to stay there alone ever since that traumatic incident. Earlier this year, inmates at a Miami prison managed to birth a child without ever even meeting each other face to face. 23-year-old Joanne DePaz and 29-year-old Daisy Link, both imprisoned for separate murder charges, started talking to each other through the air vents before falling in love and eventually wanting kids. Using a makeshift line made out of bedding, they passed Joanne's erectoplasm through the vents, while Daisy used a yeast infection applicator to inseminate herself. Against all odds, the plan worked, and the baby was born healthy. The pair are now in different prisons, while Joanne's mother is raising their baby girl.
Things invented by...
Vent baby, bro? Do you know how freaking, like, I guess, inventive. You have to come up with a method to get freaking pregnant in prison by using the damn vid. You're gonna be a top tier thinker. Woo.
Different countries. US. Bulb.
First light bulb.
India. 0 digit. France. Bicycle. England. Computer.
Really?
Malaysia. USB. Germany. Car. Japan. Laptop. Italy. Battery. Sweden. Dynamite.
Hybrid animal.
Okay.
You won't believe exist. Dog plus cat. Cubby.
Copy.
Lion plus tiger.
Liger. Aren't ligers, they're supposed to be like really rare, right? But I heard they don't live long because of the combination.
Goat plus sheep. Geep. Jaguar plus lion. Jaglion.
Jack, man.
Polar bear plus grizzly bear. Roller bear.
These are some weird combos. I've never seen them before. The Jaglin, bro, was the most shocking to me. Goes to show you, man. The genetic part, I guess. You mix them up.
Animal facts we're
Something
leaving in
will happen.
2024 because this app's going ghost and I am not doing this again. Black Panther's not an animal, it is not real. Panther means Panthera, so any cat in genus Panthera is a panther. So any of these cats being black is a Black Panther. This is a Black Panther. This is a Black Panther. This is AI. But it's hypothetically a Black Panther. Otters don't do this, and the fact that some of y'all think otherwise makes me angry. Male otters literally kidnap babies to hold as ransom for food. I promise you a pretty privileged hydro honey badger ain't operating off compassion. Elephants don't think you're cute, I don't know where that came from. Actually, I do, but that's for another video. But no, elephants don't think of us as cute, they think of us as pale predators. Probably why they life retire 500 people a year, allegedly. These aren't killer whales, they're whale killers. They're giant biracial assault dolphins. Well, actually, anything like a dolphin, whale, porpoise, whatever with teeth is a toothed whale. Dolphins are a type of toothed whale, and orcas are a type of dolphin. So every orca is a dolphin, every dolphin's a type of toothed whale, but not every toothed whale is a dolphin. Also, every tortoise is a turtle, but not every turtle is a tortoise. Pandas aren't bad at life, they're bad at adjustments. We've done way more to them than for them. I remember folks tried to get 2 pandas in Hong Kong to menage a deux for 10 years, but they thought the Oreo incels were too stupid to mate. A couple months of quarantine and isolation later, and the pandas were making a beast with 2 backs, and I think that pretty much sums up our relationship with them. Also, alpha wolves aren't real, it's literally just the parents. If you call your father alpha, that's your own omega business, not mine. In 2005, a 37-year-old man from Houston, Texas decided to go to the beach to fish. The sand on this beach was super compact, meaning that it kind of felt like concrete. So it wasn't uncommon for people to take their cars on this beach. And on this specific day, John decided to drive his truck all the way up close to the shore where he unloaded and began to fish. He waded into the water so that he was about waist deep and began to fish. After a few hours of fishing, the weather started to get a little worse. And John, who had been out there for most of the day at this point, was beginning to feel a little bit tired. So he decided that he would take a nap. But instead of taking a nap inside of his truck, which was right next to him, he decided to crawl underneath it and sleep under the truck. And soon, John drifted to sleep. Hours went by and soon it was dark outside. Unfortunately, while John was sleeping, the tide came up and his truck began to sink in the soft sand. And in doing this, it crushed him to death.
The craziest coincidences ever, part 3. Two men accidentally swam into each other at a pool party at the Flamingo Hotel in Las Vegas. But when they looked at each other, they were shocked when they realized they were identical. They even had the same hat and sunglasses, and their builds were exactly the same. In 1945, a man named Tsutomu Yamaguchi was on a business trip in Hiroshima when an atomic bomb hit the city. He was slightly injured in the blast, but he survived. After this, he returned to his home in Nagasaki, which took 3 days because of the chaos. He went to his office and tried to explain what happened in Hiroshima to his boss, but his boss didn't believe it. Then another atomic bomb dropped on Nagasaki right next to his office, but he survived again. When he managed to get home, he found his house had been significantly damaged. But miraculously, his wife and children also survived the blast. So the question is he the luckiest or unluckiest man alive?
This terrifying serial killer.
Luckiest man alive. 2 bombings back to back. He's the GOAT, bro. I don't know what else to say, man. That's good activity.
Kidnapped a 17-year-old girl who was able to brainwash and outsmart the serial killer. This is a case that you guys have been begging me to cover ever since I started posting. Bobby Joe Long had a terrible childhood like most serial killers do. His mother gave birth to him when she was only 17 years old, and then his father abandoned him and his mom when he was only 2. And Bobby's mom was a pretty bad mom, and Bobby had some mommy issues because of it. His mother was really neglectful, always out partying, leaving Bobby home alone, and then his mom would bring home these random men for like a hookup, a one-night stand. But the thing is, Bobby and his mother could only afford a 1-bedroom apartment, and Bobby and his mom shared the same bed, meaning that his mother was bringing home these random men and sleeping with them on the same mattress that her son Bobby was sleeping in. And somehow that's not the worst of it, because Bobby and his mom shared the same bed up until Bobby was a teenager, meaning his mom was hooking up with random men in the same bed as her teenage son. And when Bobby was younger, when this was happening, he used to pretend to be asleep and just lay there as silently and still as possible. But when he got older, he started to watch his mom hook up with these men. And
that damages his psyche, bro. I guess that's the best way I could put that, man. Sharing a bed with your mom till you're that old, and she's doing that in front of you, that will scar you for life. That doesn't excuse his actions, but
I don't know if it's just me, but animal nerds piss me off, bro. Because for some reason, they always have to tell you the darkest fact about your favorite animal that you didn't even ask.
And I'm gonna do it again. Matter of fact, what's your favorite animal?
Favorite animals are otters and seals.
Say less. If you see a sea otter with its nose ripped off, it's almost definitely a female, because the otter mating process involves the male clamping his jaws around her face to hold her in place, consent sold separately. In fact, it might be discontinued. The males can get so aggressive that they completely destroy the female's nose, where it gets infected and swells to the point where the female can't eat and just starves to death. Or the male gets too excited and accidentally waterboards his partner in the process, which is only a tragedy to one of them, since males reportedly can't tell the difference between an active breathing participant and a soul-evicted carcass, because they treat them exactly the same. Now, you'd expect an animal that dates like this to have more males than females. Problem is that sometimes there's an aggressive testosterone incel weasel without a mate. In some of these lower female areas, these down bad water wolverines will settle for anything roughly the same size, which can lead to male sea otters breaking the seal with no approval, and sometimes even guarding the life-retired body for up to a week. Now, it doesn't happen that often, it's pretty rare, and only in those places with a severe gender imbalance. But what was your other favorite animal?
And seals.
Oh, well, some fur seals in Antarctica have the same problem, where a lack of female causes a hormonal hot dog without abundance taken in to resort to. Yeah, there have been multiple recorded instances of fur seals forcing themselves on king penguins. In one case, the seal assault lasted 14 hours until it eventually gave up and just ate the bird. And now you know why penguins waddle. Say something else. I want you to.
This mom helped her
She
son
will
cover
expose
up
them
his
all.
girlfriend's murder. Emily Peguero was born on July 12, 2001 in the Dominican Republic. She had 2 older siblings, a brother and a sister, so she was the baby of the family. Everyone describes her as being absolutely beautiful, very kind and loving, and just extremely bright. Her parents were very hardworking people. They didn't come from a lot of money, but they did their best to provide a good life for Emily and her siblings. When Emily was a little girl, she would often play with a neighbor that lived across the street, and his name is Marlon Martinez. So even though they were neighbors and lived right next to each other, they came from very different families. Marlon's mother, Marlene, was very well known around the community. She worked in politics politics, so she had a lot of connections. They lived in this very big house that was guarded by a large gate, while Emily lived in a more humble, tiny home. Emily and Madelon grew up very close to each other, and when Emily was 15 years old and Madelon was 18 years old, they began to date. So yes, she was a minor. They dated for a few months, and when Emily was 16 years old and Madelon was now 19 years old, they found out that Emily was pregnant. Of course, Emily's family was very scared and very nervous because the baby of the family was now going to have her own baby. It was definitely a scary situation, but they were supportive of Emily. As for Madelon's family, his mom was not happy about this. She was very upset about the fact that her son got a poor girl pregnant, and she was really worried about the family's reputation. She honestly didn't even care that Emily was 16 and was so young and going through this really big life-changing moment. She cared more about how this was going to affect her son's future and how this was going to affect him going to college. Despite his mom's opinion, Madelon told Emily and her dad that he was going to step up, take responsibility for this, and take care of Emily and the baby. Fast forward to August 23rd, 2017, Emily is now 5 months pregnant and she's expecting a baby boy. That day, Emily had plans to go to the clinic with Madelon to go pick up some lab results, and then she said that she would be back later that day. So Madelon picked her up at around 8:30 in the morning, and the two of them headed off to the clinic. At around 11:25 in the morning, Emily texted her older sister saying that Madelon was actually going to drop her off at a gas station because she had plans to go meet up with their uncle. Now, as soon as Emily's sister and their mom saw this message, they were immediately concerned. First of all, Emily always sends voice messages, so the fact that she texted this time was extremely odd. Second of all, they were thinking, what uncle? Like, what uncle is Emily meeting with, and why don't we know about this meetup? Why would the uncle ask Emily to meet him at the gas station? Like, none of this made any sense. Now again, since the families are neighbors, they can literally see Madelon arriving home completely alone across the street. So Emily's sister decides to go across the street to ask Madelon, where is my sister? Where did you leave her? And that's when Madelon explains that as they were driving to the clinic, Emily realized that she got the dates confused and that her results weren't going to be ready that day, but instead be ready Friday. So she asked Madelon to take her home, and as they were driving, she said, actually, can you drop me off at the gas station? My uncle is going to pick me up there. So that's exactly what he did, and that was the last time that he saw or spoke to her. Again, Emily's family was extremely suspicious of this, so they decided to go to the gas station and ask the employees for the surveillance footage. And when they got to the gas station and looked at the footage, they were shocked by what they saw. Well, actually, they were shocked by what they didn't see. Okay, go to part 2.
She was paragliding when suddenly a storm comes out of nowhere, pulls her into the heart of it, and then propels her up 33,000 feet in the sky, which is higher than Mount Everest and the same cruising altitude as planes. At this height, temperatures plummet to negative 58 degrees and oxygen levels are dangerously low, creating a fatal environment. On the way up, she's hit with hail the size of golf balls before she ultimately loses consciousness. And then, despite being unconscious for over 40 minutes, she wakes up. Her paraglider remains stable due to the strong upward currents preventing a fatal spiral. Thankfully, the storm's downdrafts eventually brought her back to a lower and safer altitude. And then when she woke up, even though she was disoriented and barely able to move, she managed to regain control of her paraglider and land safely. In the end, she suffered frostbite bruises and shock, but she was still alive, and that's remarkable. Another professional who experienced the same thing wasn't so lucky. If you're a fan of my content, please do me a favor and subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is linked in my bio before this app gets banned.
How did she do that? How lucky that has to be for you to happen.
Less than 2 hours after that video was filmed, the girl on stage in that video would be dead. Her name was Christina Grimmie. She was a famous singer here in America, and she was murdered in 2016. So Christina had been making music and performing all of her life, but her real rise to fame started when she was on the show The Voice. After Christina was on The Voice, the world kind of opened up for her. She made her major label debut, she started going on tours all across the world, and she was a rising star. Sadly, though, she attracted the attention of a very disturbed individual who can actually be seen here in footage from her final show, creepily watching Christina perform from the crowd, knowing what he was about to do. That man was 27-year-old Kevin James Loibl. So Christina's performance that evening ended at about 10 p.m., and afterwards she moved over to a little booth to sign autographs for people who had come to the show. At around 10:24 p.m., Kevin approached Christina. Christina, thinking he was just like every other fan there, opened her arms up to give him a big hug. But that's when Kevin retrieved a Glock pistol from his person and shot her 3 times at point-blank range. After the shots rang out, Christina's brother tackled Kevin to the ground. Yes, sadly, Christina's brother was there working the booth with her that evening. But after a fight, Kevin managed to get himself free. He retrieved his Glock and he took his own life right next to Christina's body. Sadly, Christina had been shot twice in the chest and once in the head.
And by 10:59 p.m., not even a full hour after she finished her performance, Christina Grimmie was pronounced dead. Afterwards, Kevin's family left this note for the media. This was all they had to say after the tragedy. But fans, even to this day, remember Christina as an amazing singer and talk about the potential that she had if she hadn't been taken from this world so quickly. If you want to listen to more true crime stories, check out the podcast Murder in America that I co-host with my wife, Courtney. You can listen to it on any streaming platform.
Be here 1 minute, go on the next, man. She was a great person. Just trying to be nice, trying to show some love to her fans, and look what happened. Now, you know, wow, these, I guess, big people, famous people, why they always be having security around.
This is part 2 of what went on during the Habersham County press conference on Debbie Collier this morning. I highly suggest you go to the other video that I just made so that you can hear all the other details as well. So, the most crazy information that they did give during this press conference was that Amanda did speak to Debbie on the phone that afternoon. So he does not have the exact time on it. But whenever somebody asked if Amanda would give any indication on why she was going to the Family Dollar store, the police officer said that Amanda said that Debbie was going to the Family Dollar to buy supplies to clean Amanda's house. This raises so many questions for me because, I mean, first, why would you drive 90 minutes north to go to a Family Dollar to buy cleaning supplies when there's all these stops along the way and near her house to be able to get the same supplies? And the weirdest thing, none of that supplies is used to clean a house. I mean, paper towels, yeah, sure, but a torch, a poncho, a tarp, what would that be used for to clean a house? And coincidentally, all that supplies was found at the murder scene. They also confirmed that Amanda was living in Maryland with her brother, and she moved back down on the 8th of September. And remember, Steve lets Amanda live in the rental house off and on, basically whenever Amanda needs somewhere to stay. It was also confirmed that Steve was working from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. parking vehicles for the football game that was going on, and they have all of it on CCTV, so it's very unlikely that he's involved. So Amanda spoke to Debbie that afternoon. She got the Venmo transaction at 3:17, and then she waited a whole 3 hours to contact the police and file a missing persons report. And we don't know if Amanda tried to call her mom or anything between the Venmo transaction and when the police report was filed. That was pretty much the extent of the information that they gave. The detective did mention that this is not a sprint, and that they're going to take their time on this to be able to get all the information correct, which honestly I respect. Like, get all the information and then do what you need to do. Especially so whenever someone's found, court is smooth and there's no question or anything, to not be able to give this person the maximum punishment. One more thing is that they did mention that the autopsy is not completed yet. They have not received the report, and that the medical examiners gave them a 6-week time frame, likely because they're waiting on that toxicology report to come back. Okay. So let me know what you guys are thinking. They did say that they will do another press conference as soon as they get the autopsy report back, and hopefully by then they have more information. I think it's interesting that no one has been ruled out yet. And I will be super interested to see the timeline that they come up with whenever they get all the access to the phones. It's not really looking good though for Miss Bearden.
Then they're taking their time with that case. Imagine seeing that when you wake up. Speaking gibberish. I'm trying to say a ritual or something. guessing at the end, man, that Ed was trying to say ritual or something. I don't know. Seekers, that's it, man, for this video for you guys today. If you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're true seekers seeking the truth. I really appreciate the support. Make sure you guys leave a thumbs up in this video, comment down below. Also, hit that post notification bell so you always get notified when I upload my videos. Guys, are gonna catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.